Do you want to see big changes, but you keep sliding back to what's most comfortable? I want to give you some insight into why that might be happening today. Welcome back to the Help for Leaders podcast. I'm Stacey Harris. Before we dive into today's episode, click here to subscribe, hit that thumbs up, ring that bell so you're notified each week when we post new content. I've worked with a lot of leaders over the years. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen people make significant changes and I've seen it work. And then I've seen people make great effort and then fail miserably. And so I want to talk about maybe some of those tendencies, some of those reasons why we see some organizations having a culture that's empowered and all about communication and all about self-awareness and making big impact, and why other organizations kind of have some of those same goals but aren't really making headway in that particular area. So self-awareness. I'm super passionate about self-awareness in communication, in understanding our passions, our drives, understanding emotions, how they're impacting our decision-making. And I've seen so many organizations over the years successfully use assessments to build that foundation of self-awareness and not just leave it as a foundation, but really something to build upon and make big impact and big differences individually for people who feel valued and empowered and really want to just show up all day, every day, and give their all for that organization. And then I've seen some organizations who do similar effort, but people don't feel valued. They don't feel empowered. They don't feel like they want to continue on in that organization. And we've seen that over the past 2 years with 40% of the U.S. workforce changing jobs and leaving the workforce and starting new things. And I'd say that really does have something to do with culture in our organization. So let's talk about some of those organizations that I've worked with that I've seen major impact with assessments. And so one particular organization that I'm thinking about is actually in healthcare. And I would say the last 2 years in healthcare have been significant and are still significant as far as the employee engagement, and so many, we see burnout at all-time record highs. But this particular organization has been valuing their people. They've been investing in their people and really making sure that there's all of the support that they need to get the time off that they're needing to be able to recharge and to be able to do all the things that they need to do. And so not only is DISC a part of that culture and EQ, but they also understand driving forces, and they're constantly really flexing and understanding that value that every single person brings to the team. And there was, early on in this particular organization that I'm thinking of, there was a high D manager. I mean, he was D off the chart, very low self-awareness, didn't have any EQ whatsoever. And he had a support person that worked on his team that was a high S, and it was a female. She was phenomenal. I mean, she was constantly just doing all the things that needed to be done, and she was accommodating, she was supportive, she was such a great listener. But many times on a Friday afternoon, he would put things on her desk and be like, I need this on Monday. And instead of standing up and saying, well, your lack of planning is not going to ruin my weekend plans, which is what she should have done, but she would just take it on and spend her entire weekend doing a project that if he would have planned better for and given her more time, you know, it wouldn't have caused all of that work over the weekend. But finally, she had had enough, and we were coaching her as well. And she went into his office, and this was honestly, after months and months and months, she had allowed this to happen, this really bad behavior on his part to happen. And she walked into his office one day and she kind of let him have it. I mean, she kind of bam, 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 like here's what's going to happen. This is what's not going to happen. I'm no longer going to do this. And really finally said all the things that she needed to say for so long. And it took so much energy. And she went into her office, she closed the door, and she literally bawled her eyes out because it took everything in her to confront him. It freaked him out too, honestly. He was like, what just happened? Oh my gosh. And he kind of let her simmer down and calm down. And he really thought about what she had to say. And he was like, wow, she's right. I do that. I'm so unaware of how I take advantage of her time and just have these expectations. And so they got together and had a conversation that was so powerful and really kind of laid down a framework of kind of do's and don'ts. And, these are off limits. And yeah, I can do this, but it's going to require me to not be able to focus on this, and really set some clear boundaries for herself and his kind of understanding of how we were going to move forward. And I would say the next few months were phenomenal. Moving forward, it was just like the engagement, not only for those two individuals, but the entire team. They saw big differences in his style and how he was treating others, and people felt valued and they felt heard and they felt like they could speak up. And, her leading out in that way kind of empowered other people to say, hey, this is what I need. And when I feel valued, I can show up fully and give 100%, And so after a couple of months, though, things shifted. You could just feel this shift. And all of a sudden, he kind of slid back to what he was most comfortable doing, because he was honestly flexing so hard to kind of fit this new kind of standard that they had set, which was necessary and needed. And it was creating massive ripples throughout the organization. I mean, engagement within the employees was skyrocketing. Morale was at an all-time high. I mean, people were just excited to come to work and really be a part of that team. And it was all because he was really flexing that direct, dominant, results-driven style. And now all of a sudden, we're sliding back to what he was most comfortable doing. And it was basically that old behavior. And all of a sudden, wow, okay, we're back to where we started. And she had a choice to make. And I was really surprised by what she did. Do you know what she did? What do you think she did? So here we were, a couple months in, things were changing, things were different. Now all of a sudden we're sliding back to what's most comfortable for his style, piling things on last minute, not respecting her boundaries, all the things. Guess what? She quit. That woman left that organization and went to work for another organization, actually making less money, but it was less stress. And I was shocked because, on a couple of different levels. First of all, that organization lost top talent. She was amazing at her job. She was amazing at her role and what she did. And she left because she was being mismanaged. And again, she went to work for another organization and started off in a role that she was really underqualified. She was so overqualified for that role, but she was just done with the stress and not feeling valued. And this organization that she went to work for, the environment was so different. And it was all about self-awareness. It was all about collaboration. It was all about understanding and really feeling valued and heard. And man, what a difference that makes for the individual. When you have a leader that's empowering you and that's encouraging you and you feel valued, you want to do your best. You want every one of us, that's an internal drive inside of us, is to be seen and heard and valued. And when we can do that for our team members, man, it makes such a difference. And so with our assessments, I've seen organizations kind of, this is a flavor of the month, we're going to learn a little bit about communication. And then we just tuck it away and not pull it out. And that is a real disservice that you're doing to your team, because you get your hopes up. People are like, yes, we're going to make some differences. We're going to make some changes here. And then the expectation is just like, oh, nah, we're going to do like that guy. We're going to maybe do it for a month or two, maybe even just a week or two, while we're all talking about it and excited about it. But then we're just going to slide back to our old habits and doing what's most comfortable. That's human behavior. That's natural. It's actually not abnormal, because we all are wired certain ways and we have these tendencies. But if we want to learn and grow, if we really want to develop both professionally and personally, it takes effort. Just like going to the gym requires effort on your part to build that muscle, it requires effort to build that muscle memory of how to communicate more effectively, how to listen, how to flex. All of that requires effort. It doesn't just come naturally. I wish it did. I wish you could take the assessment and be like, bingo, it's so easy. It can be easy if you practice every single day the art of style flexibility. I've got a couple of podcast episodes all about flexibility. I encourage you to go listen to those. But I hope you've kind of seen maybe your own organization, as I've kind of painted this picture of, what maybe not to do, and then seeing some opportunities of where maybe you can grow. Maybe you're just doing it for your own personal benefit. You can absolutely dive into self-awareness, learning more about yourself, developing professionally, and advancing your career, as well as enhancing all of your relationships. So I hope you've learned something today. Join me next week, because we're going to talk more about Help for Leaders. If you enjoyed this episode and would like more information on emotional intelligence, behavioral styles, or communication, I'd love for you to click here to watch more episodes. And we'd also love for you to click here to subscribe so you're notified each week when we post more content.